Beyond Sunset, A Brief History of Electric Light by Lien. Here we are at sunset, the closing of a day, when electricity was new and streetlights broke the night, then followed into buildings, dark corners came in view. We accepted this gift, this blessing, until it wasn't new. And generations passed with the sense of something great, and lighting was expected, grew common and neglected. And now we bear the torches lit with LEDs and brighter than the previous sources, a feeling quite amorphous passed to a few with eyes to see, who learned from those who came before that the lighting means much more. It sheds light upon our core as we flick lights on with fingers, or words that activate devices to do our work or vices. In the night or in the day, lights bring us books at all times and mobility to travel, to see what few have seen, at any time unravel. Mysteries unseen deep in caverns or dark corners. Light makes it feel more clean. It purifies and sanctifies. Light reveals, dark conceals. Origins are important. When did electric light begin? How will the future change it? How do we fit in? First, the sun and some wick sources led to gas for lighting. For streets, at work, and homes, flames were dim and risky. Then Humphrey Davy helped miners see safely with electric lights and batteries in the early 19th century. And inventors with special sight, Edison and Swan in 1879, patented carbon incandescence. They had much more in mind. They improved upon successes. We still see their efforts shine. Edison needed power. He built a plant in Manhattan to illuminate the streets, but progress is never complete. In 1893, Tesla's lights were wire-free. 8 years later came mercury and the start of HID. Lighting communities were forming. Electric lighting became important. Just 6 years into the century, the IES was born of need. Metal halide arrived 6 years later in 1920 for sodium vapor. Europe grew serious about lighting. In 1921, the CIE came to be. 1926 brought fluorescent tubes and higher light levels ensued. In 1927, Oleg Losov saw a semiconductor junction glowing green, the first LED that anyone had seen. Incandescent sources kept improving. They glowed across the globe. The halogen lamp in 1953, the laser 7 years later. Nick Holonyak was in his lab in 1962. His red LED was new. The Beatles were beginning to play the Hamburg clubs, and the pace of change is coming, turned a walking pace to running, and the world of lighting was about to change the world. The major companies were fighting for incremental innovation for decades in duration, and then came the revolution, the next lighting evolution. Yellow and violet LEDs bloomed in 1972. 9 years later, the CFL was new. In 1987, the first useful OLED. Sulfur and induction flared briefly. Shuji Nakamura made a blue LED in 1993. Later, adding phosphor for white, he earned a Nobel Prize. He sparked a revolution and conversion that continues in our lives. LED luminaires became viable in 2005 as replacement lamps were refined. In 2011, incandescent was surpassed. The LED replaced the A lamp at last. It improved on Edison's invention and showed that solid state was worth the wait. Electronics now drove progress faster toward the future. Companies adapted or were defeated. The competition got heated. Efficacy advanced and chips were lasting longer. Colors were improved and sizes getting smaller. Then prices hit the bottom and the market was appeased. They accepted pricing and performance, and then most research ceased. As LEDs, ubiquitous and take it for granted, grew common and eyes turned to analyzing effects on health and how little we've learned, and how light grows plants for food and toward new ways to deliver light, how, when, and where we want it, inside or out, day or night, converging, integrating, moving to some end that may look very different than it seemed when we began. Motions picked up pace and change is underfoot, but we may not recognize it until it's well underway, and it's poised for us to see it past the closing of this day beyond sunset.